Hello, this is a Write Club table read with guest writers Pat Prentiss and Brandon Russell. Be sure to follow Write Club on social media and enjoy the read.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is the March presentation of Write Club's Guest Writer of the Month. I am Timberly Hope. I am your host for the evening, and we will be reading Jack. This is a working draft of Jack written by Mr. Brandon Russell and Mr. Pat Prentiss. And so we will provide feedback as well as read the script for you. We're going to start reading with our narrator, Mr. Rob Kirby. Enjoy Write Club's table read of Jack.
Fade in. Exterior, forest, day, Seattle. Wide on, drone shot of large forest while title card, the lumberjack. Pan 2, wide on of a man working on a tree. Jack, a large built man, scruffy beard, is wearing blue jeans and a jacket, the beanie on. Jack has had a hard life to this point, and something is fixing to change his life forever. He's chopping down limbs with his axe. On his jacket, there's a small radio playing country music. He has a harness connected to his jacket and is connected to a tree limb. Angle on, branch falls to the ground as we get perspective of how high he is. Jack looks up and notices a strange object in the tree and looks with a confused look on his face. The object is dark and jagged, much like a blade arrow. Angle on, Jack takes a breather and looks around. Jack takes off his beanie and wipes his head and looks around his surroundings. Fade to, title card, 3 years later. Exterior, school, day. Wide on, girl stands in front of school alone. Angle on, closer in on the girl. The girl is Jack's daughter, Sarah. Sarah's about 6 years old, as she's in kindergarten, first grade. She has brownish blonde hair, wearing her jeans and tennis shoes. She has a pink backpack on as well. A teacher comes out to stay with her while she waits in the car rider line. Most kids have already left the school area. Teacher, black, tall, and friendly with kind eyes, enters.
Hey, sweetie, someone will be here soon.
Sarah sits and doesn't say anything, like she's been here before. The teacher puts a hand on her shoulder and comforts her. Suddenly, skirt! A car pulls up to the car rider line. Angle on, Jack rolls down the window. He's drunk. Jack is not as scruffy here, more clean cut and more of a balding head.
Sorry, I'm late. Got off late.
Sarah has a reluctant look on her face.
Come on, sweetie.
Angle on, teacher is hesitant. Comfort Sarah one more time before letting her go. Angle on, Jack and Sarah speed off. Teacher is left there. Interior, exterior, car, soon after.
How was school?
He puts his hand on Sarah's knee.
It was okay.
Tell me what you learned.
He starts looking more at her more than the road.
Mom said you'd be late.
Jack is taken aback.
Well, your mom doesn't realize I have work things to do. She wouldn't stand that.
Awkward beat.
I love you. You love your dad, don't you?
Awkward beat.
I love you.
Mommy is just preoccupied with her new boyfriend. She doesn't understand what she put me through.
All of Jack's attention is now on Sarah.
I try my best to provide a life for you.
Daddy!
Bam! Jack lost control of the car while looking at Sarah, and the car flips. Fade to black. Exterior, forest, day. Flashback to real time. The song that played on the radio stopped and the DJ starts to talk. Jack puts his beanie back on and begins to check out the mysterious item above him in the tree. Jack begins to climb closer to the arrow.
So reports are saying that there was a meteor shower last night. Surface made surface with the earth last night. There are actually some remains that landed near this area.
Jack looks at the arrow. He reaches out of his hand to touch it. The arrow is sharper than he thought. It cuts through his glove and cuts his hand deep and badly. He looks at the arrow and it dissolves in front of him. Tied on, Jack's face as he racks. He takes a glove off to get a better look at his hand. There's blood, but sees his hand glowing. He rolls up his sleeve to get a better look at this body and sees his veins swelling up and popping out of his arms. He begins to grunt and scream as the pain has taken over him more. Jack goes in his bag and gets out a bandage and begins to wrap his wound tightly around. Once he has it in place, he takes out a pocket knife and cuts the remainder. He puts the pocket knife back in his pocket. Cut 2, exterior, forest, day. Jack climbs down from the large tree that he's been at and is still in shock. Jack's friend, Ray William, similar to Jack in age, not as heavy built, glasses, and almost a nerd vibe, but not too nerdy. Ray is also Jack's AA counselor. They start walking together out of the forest together.
What happened, Jack? Everyone in the forest could hear you.
I cut my hand on a branch up there, but nothing serious.
You know how it is working out here. Bumps and bruises happen.
Bumps and bruises.
One time I cut my hand so bad, I think my blood is still on the table of someone's house, if they even use that tree at all.
They both laugh knowing he's playing around. Slight beat.
Well, you still coming to the meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Good. I'm happy about the progress you've been making. Glad you're here.
Ray comforts Jack as they walk together. Cut 2, interior, Jack's house, night. Jack sits in his trailer. We don't see much of it at the beginning. He has a bowl of cereal that he makes, and we see his bandaged hand. The trailer is small and condensed, and Jack's large body seems like it's too big for where he's living, physically. In the kitchen, he has a small picture of his daughter and him before the accident happened. He picks up the picture of them in one hand, bowl of cereal in the other, walks over to the chair. Jack looks at the picture for a moment and sets it on a side table next to his chair. On the side table is the TV remote. Picks up the TV remote and flips the small box TV on. He sits there and eats cereal and watches TV. Tied on, Jack sits still. After a moment, he glances over to see a safe in the corner in the room. The safe is black with a simple lock on the front. Not expensive, but gets the job done. Slide on, the safe is speaking to Jack. Tied on, Jack feels something towards the safe. Eyes squint. Cut 2, flashback, interior, jail cell, phone room, flashback. Jack is in jail phone room with his ex-wife talking to him across. She is pale and almost out of it completely. Her new husband/boyfriend is there with her. Jack is obviously overpowered and not afraid of him at all. The boyfriend is standing in the back of the area, almost as if he is intimidated Jack.
Why is he here?
Because he is supportive, something you were never able to be good at.
Angle on, Jack smirks at the thought, gets angry.
Yeah, because some actually had to bust their ass to get their jobs.
Security guard walks closer to Jack. Jack nods to him, acknowledging that he would get quiet. Angle on, ex-wife's face is blank, saddened.
How is she?
She's fine.
Good. That's good to hear. When are you going to let me see her?
Jack, you aren't going to get to see her ever again.
Angle on, Jack's reaction.
You have completely ruined your chances of ever seeing her. You don't deserve to see her again.
Jack is almost in shock.
Who the hell are you to tell me when I can and cannot see my daughter? Who do
you think I am?
She's getting angry. The stepdad steps in to put a hand on her shoulder. She calms down.
You put your daughter, our daughter's life at risk that day, not to mention the person in the other car.
Angle on, Jack looks in despair.
I will do everything in my power that you never see her again.
Cut 2, real time. Interior, AA meeting, night. Tied on, Jack's face sitting in his chair. Someone is sharing the recovery story. Jack looks very tired and has a faint sweat on his brow forehead. And at that point in time, I knew it was a problem. Random man talking.
When you dislocate your son's arm because you're too drunk to realize what you're doing, that's when you know it's real. And now here I am. I love my son.
He gets emotional.
It's fine to get emotional, to feel emotional. You're here now. The past cannot be changed, but being here is the first step to affecting your future.
He's right. The important part is that you are all here now. You recognize the problem and you're doing something about it.
Angle on, Jack takes a look at his surroundings. Angle on, electric group of people, men, women. Close on, Jack starts getting dizzy. Jack stumbles out of his chair. He starts to leave. The group of people look as he is leaving. Murmurs, Jack, Jack, Jack. Tracking on as Jack exits the building. Cut to interior Jack's house, night. Jack stumbles in his house, groaning, doesn't have a grip on himself. He turns and shuts his door. His door locks in and makes his way to his room. He gets to his room and goes and takes his clothes off as his veins are glowing, throwing himself on the bed as he fades. Fade to black. Interior Jack's room, next morning. Jack wakes up, takes a moment to analyze his surroundings, rubs his head. His head is pounding from the night before, not sure what or how he actually got home. He's not underneath the sheet. In his boxers on top of the bed. He gets up and walks. He does a double take and realizes he's more ripped. He looks around his room and notices it is a mess as he is confused on what happened the night before. Interior Jack's bathroom, continuous. He looks himself up and down. He's more ripped and stronger than what he remembers.
What the?
He takes the bandage off his hand and sees the cut on his hand is fully healed. Interior Jack's room, continuous. Jack goes back into his room, still in shock. Finds his clothes for work and puts them on. His shirt is too tight on him now, but he puts the jacket on top so you would not be able to tell. Cut to exterior woods that day. Jack is on a tree, harnessed up to it. He's sweating more than usual and having trouble with his chainsaw. The strap is a little too tight on him since he's slightly bigger in size. He's hanging at the tree nearby the first tree he was at the first time. There's another worker that is hanging about 15 feet above him. Worker, Hispanic, large build, much like Jack, stops his chainsaw and screams down.
Hey, Jack, you all right?
Jack stops his chainsaw.
I'm fine.
Slight beat.
I wonder.
Jack adjusts his harness and situates himself on a large branch that is beside him. Jack is sitting on the branch and balances his weight. He rolls up his jacket sleeve and looks at his arm. Tied on, Jack's arm. His veins are popping out and are yellowish in color. Tied on, Jack's reaction. Click, click. Angle on, birds fly from the top of the trees. Jack hears a sound, looks up suddenly. In the distance, he sees two glowing orange light dots that are similar and close together. Tied on, Jack's reaction. Click, click. Branch breaks.
Ah,
Angle on, Jack falls and cuts his back on large branch.
fuck.
Wide on, see Jack's body hit the ground. Fade to black.
Jack,
Cut to interior, Walter's house, day. Flashback 3 years earlier. Walter, older man, glasses, medium in size, talks with Jack.
how was your last day of community service?
Jack, a little more scruffy, sits at the table beside Walter in his house.
It was fine. Made it happen. Beats being locked up in that jail cell.
I'm proud of you for being able to stay the course.
Angle on, Jack sits in silence.
What am I going to do?
Walter looks in sympathy.
She's not going to let me see her. And honestly, I won't let me either.
Slight beat.
What am I going to do, Walter?
Walter sees the light.
I may have something.
Jack perks up.
I have an old friend. I went to school with him when we were young. He runs a lumber company up in Washington.
Angle on, Jack does not know what Walter's getting at.
Maybe I can talk to him and see if you can come on board. It would be something different and we'd be able to almost start over. Get your life back somewhere else and maybe in time come back and see her after some of the shock has settled.
Okay. Well, if you can call him and see if you can do anything, that would be great. You know, I've actually never been to the capital.
It's Washington State.
Angle on, Jack just nods.
Yes, the lumber company is in Washington State. He struggled with alcoholism, and I think he has his own practice and is the head of AA meetings, so you would still be able to get your time done. Kind of a situation like you.
Jack smirks and almost laughs at being called an alcoholic.
I can talk to the attorneys here and see if we can work something out. If you agree to do the AA meetings, you can almost start anew.
Angle on, Jack contemplates but understands what must be done. Cut to interior, exterior, Greyhound bus, day. Jack is sitting on a Greyhound bus to himself, wearing a similar jacket to what he was wearing while working the tree.
Remember, Jack, some things happen for a reason. What you did was wrong, but it's how you recover and move on from your mistakes.
Angle on, he looks at a picture of his daughter. Medium on, he's clearly filled with emotion.
You will see her again.
Pan on, shot of Greyhound bus driving into the distance. Fade out.
Jack? Think he's dead? No, he's not dead.
Point of view, Jack's eyes begin to open. Exterior, woods, that day. Jack is sitting on his back and awakens. Ray William and another worker are sitting around him. Jack sits up.
Holy.
Jack is in shock, but not hurt.
I'm fine. I feel.
Jack holds up his hand and his veins are bright yellow.
What?
Jack stands up fast.
Jack.
Angle on, Jack has a huge cut all the way down his back. The cut is cut through his jacket. Yellow spots line the huge cut on him.
I'm fine. What is it?
Come on.
What happened to me?
You're back. It's
Ruined.
Slight beat.
I don't feel anything.
They begin to walk with Jack.
I know you probably don't.
Cut to interior doctor's office soon after. Jack sits with a doctor robe and sits on the chair facing towards the window. Door opens. Enters doctor. Doctor, smaller build, white, may not even pass for a doctor outside the setting. Doctor's carrying a clipboard, some rubbing alcohol, and a pad.
Well, Jack, you took a nice fall today.
Angle on, Jack spins around.
Guess you can say that. Fell 60 feet from a tree.
What happened?
Well, I was working and trying to get.
Slight beat. Angle on, doctor looks at Jack with curiosity.
Trying to get to this branch and it just snapped. I guess my harness wasn't properly fastened.
The doctor opens the vanilla folder and pulls out some x-rays. He holds them to the screen and turns out the light and begins to examine them. Angle on, Jack starts looking as well. The x-rays are of his arms, legs, back, etc.
Interesting. No broken bones at all.
Slight beat.
Well, accidents happen. Turn around. Let's clean it up.
Angle on, Jack turns back around. Doctor proceeds to lift the gown Jack is wearing and look at his back. Angle on, doctor sees a scar with some yellow and a slight mysterious reaction. Doctor takes a pad and dabs some rubbing alcohol on it.
So I guess you guys have been busy with this weird meteor crash.
Yeah, it's weird. Some of this stuff we've been seeing.
Oh, yeah?
Doctor takes the pad and rubs the scar. It heals suddenly. Angle on, doctor's reaction. Looks up.
Jack?
Oh, looks like some sort of extraterrestrial life from material.
Doctor has done more, and now the heel is almost completely healed. Close on, doctor is in shock and wide-eyed.
What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, I think it's can be suspicious to say the least.
Slight beat of silence.
How are you looking?
Fine. I'll be back in a moment.
Angle on, doctor puts the sheet back on his back. Doctor exits. Cut to interior doctor's office, hallway.
Rachel, can you get me a prescription written up for Jack? Just need some ointment for this wound.
Rachel, Asian woman, pretty, glasses, wearing blue scrubs.
Right away, sir.
She exits. Medium on, doctor paces for a second with his hand over his mouth. Rachel comes back with a prescription paper in hand, hands it to doctor.
Thank you.
Rachel exits. Doctor goes back into the room. Interior doctor's office soon after. Doctor walks in, prescription paper in hand.
Well, Jack, here's the prescription. It's for It's for some ointment to continue to put on. It may be scarred for a little, but it will help. Also, I wouldn't hurt to get some Advil or something in case you started feeling warm or start feeling ill. And feel free to call if something bad happens.
Jack stands up.
Thanks for this, Doc. I'm sure it's not that bad.
No, I'm sure it isn't either. I'm going to take some of the blood that we got from the nurse and I'm going to study it, make sure that there isn't anything major.
Awkward beat. Doctor smiles.
Sure, that's fine.
Will do.
Jack holds his hand out. They shake hands. Medium on, Jack leaves as the camera is still on Doctor. Door closes. Close on, Doctor blinks. When he opens his eyes are the same eyes Jack saw up in the tree. He looks around for a moment, blinks again. His eyes are back to regular. Doctor exits. Interior, exterior, drugstore drive-through soon after. Jack is driving his truck, pulls up to a stop at the drive-through. Clerk, young, black girl, pretty, is working the counter.
Hello, what can I help you with?
Yeah, I just need to get this prescription.
He hands the prescription through the drive-through machine. Clerk smiles and exits frame. Jack sits in his car and his mind begins to wander. Flash to interior, nice house every evening. Jack, looking more clean-shaven because this was a flashback, is sitting talking to Ray William. This is the first time they have met. Ray is very friendly towards Jack and understanding.
Make it up here okay?
Yeah, took the bus, longest trip of my life.
Yeah, I don't think I could manage. I'd get claustrophobic.
Both share a little laugh. Angle on Jack's face.
Well, any friend of Walter's is a friend of mine. He told me the situation, and I'm just happy you're here now.
I gotta tell you, I didn't come here with much. I don't even have a car or a place to stay.
Oh, don't worry about that. I have an old truck you can drive around, and you can stay here for a little bit until after you've been working some.
Angle on, Jack is nodding in agreement.
I mean, there's some cheap places around here you will really enjoy.
Thanks for all the help. It really means a lot. Bailed me out of some trouble.
Look, I hope you enjoy your new life. After being here a little bit, you may consider this home.
Medium on, Jack and Ray sit at the bar table. Ray puts his hand on Jack's shoulder in a comforting manner.
Sir. Sir.
Flash to interior, exterior, drugstore, drive-through, real time. Jack has been out of it remembering. He turns and looks at the clerk. Angle on, clerk has put prescription back in machine.
Have a nice day.
Sorry. Thanks.
Jack grabs the ointment and drives off. Cut to interior Jack's house, night. Jack pours a glass of water and chugs it. Cut to interior Jack's house, night. Jack sits in a blank stare and watches TV. Cut to interior Jack's bathroom. Jack looks at his back and notices how it looks mostly healed. In a confused way, he puts the ointment on his back. Fade out. Phone ringing. Phone ringing. Cut to interior Jack's room next morning. Jack is laying in bed. It is too early for a phone call. Jack answers reluctantly.
Hello?
Hello, Jack. It's Dr. Ian.
Yeah.
I ran some tests on your wound. Found out some information that would love for you to come back in.
Yeah, sure. You want to schedule for Monday?
Now would be great, actually.
Slight beat.
Okay.
Cut to interior doctor's office soon after. Jack sits in the waiting room wearing a dirty t-shirt and some worn jeans. It looks like he did not shower before he came in. Dr. Ian enters.
Jack, thank you so much for coming in on short notice.
No problem.
So after examining more of your blood, it seems that you have some sort of foreign DNA that has entered into your bloodstream. I had to put some ethanol on a pad yesterday when you came in and your wound healed pretty much right away. It seems like this ethanol has an effect on your body. And that is going to be one of the only ways you will be able to survive and function on a day-to-day basis.
Slight beat. Jack is still confused.
Okay, so back up. So you think I have ethanol to stay alive? I have ethanol to stay alive? What do you want for me to go buy? Some rubbing alcohol?
I wouldn't recommend rubbing alcohol, but ethanol is also found in regular alcohol.
Slight beat. Jack looks enraged.
Wait. Alcohol like Jack Daniels, Crown Royal?
Tito's, Grey Goose, Bud Light, yes, Jack.
Doc, I'm a recovering alcoholic. What are you trying to do to me?
I'm not trying to do anything but share my results. It was good that you came in as soon as you did. I was able to use the ethanol rag to heal it, but it seems to have an inverse relation. If not applied in some sort of way, your body may be subject to give out.
Slight beat. Jack is hesitant to the thought.
How do you know this?
Have you noticed any changes about your body since the contact with the tree?
Slight beat.
I think
Yes.
I think what you were working with had some sort of supernatural effect on you. Remember when you said you were working on the tree and you saw something that was extraterrestrial? I believe that had a terrestrial effect on you.
Jack laughs at the thought of supernatural.
Come on, Doc. I thought you were supposed to know what is actually going on. You think it's supernatural?
It is strange, but it is the best way that I am able to describe it. I think that you need to continue to consume ethanol for you to function. And if any other accident were to happen, ethanol could quickly heal your wounds and even maybe make you feel different.
Slight beat.
Different.
When you were up in the tree when the accident happened, did you start feeling different, as in mood swings, maybe even increased strength?
Slight beat.
Well, I'd say so. I came home that night and I wasn't feeling well. I kind of forget what happened, but I woke up in a room, it was a mess. Like a tornado came through and wiped everything out.
Dr. Ian begins to pace back and forth. Angle on, Jack looks at him with bizarre looking, waiting for a response.
I wonder. I think what has happened is this chemical may have gotten into your bloodstream and has caused your body to undergo these changes you mentioned. Just the other day, you cut yourself really bad. Have you felt these changes digress some?
Maybe a little, but
Dr. Ian cuts him off as he sits on the bed table beside Jack.
So these chemicals are in your bloodstream and made you feel stronger. As anything, it seems to be acting as some sort of assembly, and it wears down in time. But this ethanol seems to be the sort of quick healer on your body, almost making you immune to any sort of injury.
Slight beat.
And you found all this out in a day.
Well, I was fascinated by it, actually. As I continue to look into it, of course, I will let you know any of my findings.
Slight beat.
Jack, this may be the only way you will be able to survive. I know it sounds crazy, and me being the medical practitioner, it's not really in my nature to or practice to say this.
Slight beat as Dr. Ian gets closer.
Alcohol may be the only way to keep your body functioning.
Close on, Jack looks at him in an odd way. Cut to exterior Jack's car soon after. Jack gets in the car and sits down and takes a second before cranking the car. He sits and reflects on what the doctor just told him, not knowing to take it with a grain of salt or take him seriously. Jack shakes it off and starts the car. Cut to interior restaurant soon after, overcast. Ray, William, and Jack sit at a table in the back corner. The place is somewhat slow, but it's Ray's and Jack's favorite place to eat. They each have waters with lemon as their drinks.
No, look. Griffey Jr. changed the way baseball was played. He put Seattle on the map and is a force to be reckoned with. Hands down, greatest baseball player ever.
But he did leave you, right?
He did. Worst mistake he made.
Slight beat.
But he did come back, finished his career as a Mariner.
Yeah, I guess so. Down in the South, baseball wasn't as big, but you were either a Braves or a Cards fan. But South is dominated by college football.
Yeah, what's that conference? SE.
Yeah, SEC, Southeastern Conference.
Oh, that's right. I was going to say that.
Slight beat. Angle on. Ray tries to keep his cool.
I wasn't going to say that.
Angle on. Both of them begin to laugh. Waitress enters.
Okay, the fish and chips.
Ray nods that it's his.
And you must be the meatloaf and potatoes.
That's right.
More water for you, sir?
Yes, please.
Waitress exits.
Honestly, there's nothing like some meatloaf and potatoes. Probably best place I've ever had it at.
Ray begins to chow down on his fish and chips and smiles and looks at Jack.
I'm glad you're doing better, Jack. You look better too.
I feel good. Better than I have in a bit, to tell the truth.
I know you went to the doctor after your fall. How is everything with that?
Oh, I'm good. Doc gave me some antibiotics. I'm not worried about this thing, about being about this being in the line of work. Some injuries come with the territory.
Ray is somewhat amused at Jack's mindset. Off the screen, while Jack eats, Ray smiles.
Well, I think this has been a great year for you. In these 3 years, I've seen a positive change in you.
Ray takes a drink of his water. Jack stops eating for a second and ponders what Ray just said.
Ray, I'll be honest with you.
Ray's full attention is now on Jack. Waitress enters, close on Jack's face.
I just want to see my daughter again, man.
Waitress enters.
Here's your water, sir.
Ray nods in appreciation of the waitress bringing him his drink. Ray looks back towards Jack, medium on Jack's face as he talks.
You know, I feel that in a way, I am changed. I am a changed man, and I deserve and want to see her again. Only a few more months.
That's good. And you're right, it has been a while, and I do see your change. I think you're fully capable.
Jack gets back to his meatloaf. Ray back to the fish and chips.
So are you going to move back?
Not sure. I want to. I still consider that home, but as long as I am able to see my daughter, it doesn't matter to me.
Angle on, Ray looks sympathetic. Slow zoom on, Jack as he eats food still looks distant. Cut to exterior grocery store night. Jack exits the front of a 24-hour grocery. No one is really there. Jack has about 2 bags of the essentials: milk, deli meat, bread, cereal, mayo, etc. He walks toward his car in a hollow state and unlocks it from afar. He opens the door and proceeds to get in. Then all of a sudden, he notices something at the corner of his eye. Angle on, Jack looks up. Angle on, 2 men seem to be following a woman from across the street. Jack looks more intently, looks around to see if anyone else is seeing what he's seen. It's 12:30 a.m. No one sees. Jack puts the bags in his car and quickly starts running across the street. He's crossing the street and gets closer to the strip mall. He turns the corner and the men have just now got to the girl. She's the owner of a liquor store. Jack turns the corner.
Hey.
The 2 thugs turn around, wearing black, not truly able to tell much else from them. It looks like they are medium-sized, but Jack is still larger than them.
I don't think you should do that.
One of the thugs reaches for something. Jack thinks fast, rushes a thug. Wow! Jack moved faster than normal, almost like a teleport towards the thug. Angle on, damsel is startled by this.
Ah.
Jack tackles and pummels him to the ground. The damsel takes off inside the store and locks the door. She's safe for now. Jack ground and pounds the first thug, and the second thug hits him in the back of the head with a punch.
Ah!
Jack turns his attention to the second thug, gets in a fighting stance, and throws some punches, missing some, barely hitting some. Thug 2 is staying with him. It seems like this guy knows some of his stuff. Thug 1 is still laying on the ground motionless, but the gun has fallen out of his pocket and hit the ground. Meanwhile, the damsel seems to have a gun inside that she usually keeps and is standing at the door, still out of sight, holding a shotgun. Jack is still in the fight with Thug 2, bobs and weaves under a punch, but lands a good hook to the jaw on him and knocks him out cold. The damsel slowly unlocks the door and walks out. Jack slowly turns towards the damsel.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Damsel is a really pretty girl, blondish hair. She has glasses and is shorter than Jack. Damsel out of nowhere starts stumbling for the shotgun.
Watch out.
Bam! Fade to black. Fading in and out of black, we are from Jack's perspective after he has stumbled his way back to his house. We hear heavy breathing as the door opens. Cut 2. More heavy breathing as Jack is making his way through the house. Cut 2. Interior Jack's house. Night. Angle on. Jack makes his way through the house towards the bathroom. Blood is getting mostly everywhere. When he gets to the bathroom, he puts his head towards the sink. He has a bullet in his chest from not too long ago. When the gunshot went off, Jack had gotten shot in the chest, and the damsel shot the thug virtually at the same time. For some reason, he thinks of something Dr. Ian said earlier.
The alcohol may be the only way to keep your body functioning.
Jack looks again at the mirror, obviously panting and freaking out from the bullet in his chest. He stumbles back to the living room, fumbles to the safe in the corner of the room, and falls down to the safe's level. Stumbling and panting while he puts in the lock's code, he hears his daughter's voice in his head.
Daddy!
Finally, he's able to open the safe, and inside it is a picture of his ex-wife and daughter together, a different picture than the one on the side of his table. He flips the picture over and sees a note he wrote himself. This is what you're working towards. You can tell Jack is conflicted on what to do, but this is affecting him heavily. He throws the picture out the way. Underneath, in a styrofoam cutout that matches, is an unopened box of Jack Daniels. Jack rips the tag open and opens the bottle. He takes a quick look at it before doing this. He knows that this moment is what he was working towards. He starts chugging the bottle and gets all the way to about 3/4. He puts the bottle down. His breathing is still heavy, but he slowly starts slowing down and more shallow. Close on, Jack looks up as he knows he's feeling different. Jack gets up and hurries to the bathroom. He gets to the bathroom to see, and his wound is already looking better. He's literally glowing. He examines his wound and takes his hand and takes out the bullet. Jack feels unstoppable. Exterior, Jack's house, night. Jack bursts out his house, feeling stronger than he ever has. He lives close to the woods where he works at. He decides to test his mysterious power and run through the woods. He's able to jump higher, super strength, faster. He enters through the woods. Drone up, the wood tops move as Jack runs through. Slow pan up into the black midnight, or black night. Fade to black.
That was awesome.
Thank you so much for bringing Jack.
You're the man, Rod. I do not envy those narrative instructions. That's crazy.
Okay, so we are going to go into feedback, into the feedback portion. But before we do, how do you feel, Brandon?
That's really cool. I mean, I'm like over here making notes myself, like, just kind of like, wow, just seeing stuff like as you read it, because, at least for me writing, like you read your own work, and then, like when you're prepping for a film, it's like, the first time you go to a table read, and then you like read it with the cast, and you're like, even like after like 4 or 5 drafts, you're like, whoa, like, hearing your words being read out loud by multiple different people is always just like a humbling experience in a way. So I mean, just hearing you guys read it, like I had story notes, in my head. I was like, okay, that didn't really make sense. Kind of like repeated on some things, like, at least like in the some dialogue, and then some of the non-dialogue stuff. But I mean, it was cool. I mean, again, it was really humbling getting you guys, hearing you guys read it. I'm sure Pat would feel the same, but I mean, I'm sure he'll see it. So, I thought it was great. I mean, I wrote some things down. It'll be interesting to see, what everyone else thinks, and see if some of what I wrote down matches what other people said. So, yeah, it was awesome.
Hey, let me ask you this, Brandon. What
Sure.
type of feedback are you looking for? Are you looking for script structure feedback? Are you looking for holes in your story? What type of feedback are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, anything really, when it comes to story, like with this being a pilot, I guess he still has no idea like about his powers. So there was a couple things like, that, I guess like, Pat could think about, or myself, like, why is, so like the doctor, for example, is this some sort of like alien person that, like this meteor that came down right at the beginning of the script, he's got like this connection to it, like it's kind of like, well, why is, who is this alien guy? So like there's a couple things that like are very outstanding, but I mean like script structure, story notes, anything, I'm open to anything. I'm pretty cool with getting constructive criticism anyway, so it doesn't really bother me anything. So I'm cool with that.
Okay. All right, great.
Just whatever anybody has, it can be story related, script related, whatever anyone thinks.
Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to try to go in the opposite order that I called you in first, and we'll save the admins for last. So we're going to start with Miss Gray Marino.
I believe I've heard this idea before. Sorry, my child came in and asked me something. I believe Pat has told me about this idea prior, so the only thing that I have to go back to the script. The only thing that I could see was on page 18. And remember, I'm more actress than I am writer. I just write because I can, not because because I'm a pro at it or anything, just because I get ideas.
Hey, all opinions, and I'll say this for everybody too. All opinions matter here. Whether you're a seasoned writer of 20 years or a new writer of 15 minutes, everybody knows how they feel about a movie when they walk out of it. So you have an opinion here, just based on that.
I thought a little bit more of the reaction that occurred with this meteor could happen a little bit sooner, just a little bit more. A little bit more of insight into he has super strength or things are happening just a little bit sooner. And I can't remember what was on page 18.
Page 18 is that's on page 18. It shows like when he's getting the prescription.
Okay.
Yeah, for like the ointment.
I think I found it. It was just something in the way that they were having their conversation that was just kind of
okay.
I don't know if it would say deadpan or if I don't know what it would. I don't know how to get it across, but something like that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought it was pretty dang interesting. I like supernatural, mutative stuff. So, but yeah, it's for me personally, a little bit of more what's happening inside his body could start showing up a little bit earlier.
Okay.
Then it starts happening at the end, and it's like, wait, we want more. Right. But I mean, you're supposed to do that at the end.
Yeah. And I think I get what you mean about the meteor shower. Kind of like is like at the like very opening scene, and then they like mention it maybe twice after that. So keeping that kind of like like a meteor shower, I don't know. It's like the second meteor shower this week. It's like it's more of a like a one-off occurrence. So yeah, that's cool.
All right, well, that was all my notes.
Okay, thanks, Gray. Hey, Brandon, while we're doing the feedback, don't feel the necessity to respond to everybody. We're just going to keep rolling it through in the notes.
All right, cool.
can take notes on.
We'll be here all night for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to Mimi.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was next. It was interesting, very interesting. I did, because so much of it was visual. At times I had problems keeping up with all the flashbacks, exactly what was happening when. And there were some places, like, for instance, he was in somebody else's house, but yet he looked over at a picture of his daughter. And then at the end, he was looking at the picture of his daughter in the safe, but he went out and got up in the tree. I wanted to see some kind of a resolution that involved his daughter. So it's just little things like that were kind of, well, would this really happen at this place? But that was all. I thought very interesting.
Thanks, Mimi. We are moving on to Miss Angela Bell.
Okay, so I thought it was great. I like the idea. I felt like you have lots of cliffhangers in there, like with his daughter and his ex-wife and that boyfriend, and what he's going to do with these powers, the damsel, what's going to happen there. So I thought those were good. My major was journalism, so I'm big on grammar. So there is some grammatical things going on there. And the only other thing, like story-wise, that I saw that I had a question about was during the doctor, when Jack was talking to the doctor, why not the rubbing alcohol? Is there more ethanol in the drinking alcohol? Like, because when he put the rubbing alcohol on his back, like, he healed, those were just fine. So what was the doctor's? I know he's an alien, so he has some kind of ulterior motive, which we don't know yet, which is another cliffhanger, which is great. But just for that meeting, if a doctor was going to say, well, no, I know you're an alcoholic, but you need to drink this. Why? Why not the rubbing alcohol is what I would say. But I loved it.
Thanks, Angela. Derek?
All right. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. Is that too old? That story? No. Old TV show. It reminded me of like a Dave Chappelle when he pitched his movie idea, superhero. But yeah, I think the dialogue needs to be tightened up, and there's a beat to stories. And I think working on a lot of it is working on the beat to how well the script rolls off, because you're doing it as a pilot. You want to catch people earlier. I mean, it's catchy, it's a great story, but you want to catch them earlier if you're doing a pilot, because you know how Netflix and stuff goes today. People aren't going to watch for 10 or 15 minutes for something to get started until their friend tells them, oh man, this is the greatest. And they're like, well, I tried to watch it, but I wasn't into it until, I stopped watching it. So that's the thing. Just Arnold's got tons of books on beats and scripts and storytelling, or, but that's it. That's the only thing I got about it is it took a while to get it going, and beats of storytelling, and sharpen up the dialogue, because dialogue's a big deal. You got to get the dialogue a little sharp. So that's it.
Thanks, Derek. Stafford, your thoughts?
Honestly, man, Brandon, are you shooting this yourself, or you just trying to get a pit? You gonna try to picture yourself? Don't know.
No,
Well, I was gonna say.
No, I don't really know. Yeah, I mean, I don't plan to shoot this. I mean, it would be cool, but yeah, like there's a lot of visual effects and like craziness and stuff like that. So yeah, it would be more of like, yeah, you like fine tune it, and then if it gets picked up by like a Netflix or something like that. Yeah, I don't really see myself shooting it.
Got you, man. I just want to say, kudos to you, man, because it was visual as fuck. Like it kept me interested, man. Like I really dug it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was something that I like how you was telling your story. I gotta agree with Derek as well, though. You have to get your inciting incident kicking. Like you gotta have the attention getter in, like I said, the first 10 pages, because like people will tune out instantly, you know, seeing like they're not interested. But for the most part, I feel like you did a good job. Like as far as telling the story, keeping us intrigued, the mutation, like it gives me like Slither Venom vibes. You know what I'm saying? But I could tell it's going to be very action packed. Like you did a very good job with that, man. I was interested the entire time. Like even playing Jack. So like I said, good job on that, man.
All right, thanks, Stafford. Mr. Rod Kirby. Okay, we're gonna go to Mary Claire.
I'm good. I had to find the mute button. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So I was writing some notes, and thanks for answering that question, Brandon, as far as your intentions for this piece. And I'll just start by saying that I love the idea. I think it's original. It's got a lot of potential, and I'd really like to see it more fleshed out. I did have one question for you. Was there more to this script? Is it like a longer script, or is this it? 36 pages?
Yeah, this pretty much was the pilot that I came up, me and Pat came up with at this time, really.
Okay. Cool.
Potential for more, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think piggybacking on what Stafford and Derek said as far as your inciting incident, one thing that I would suggest that you kind of play around with is maybe even starting the show off with Jack falling at the tree and then getting his powers then and going through the motions of trying to figure out what's going on with him, right? And then flashing back to the daughter and all that other stuff. Like you can weave that in towards the middle of the story, but I would start off boom right there. He falls out the tree. There's something going on in his back. What the freak is happening with me? And also with the I love superhero movies, and the best part of all the superhero movies is two really awesome things. Is number one, when the hero discovers that something's wrong and they freak out about it, and then two, when they discover their powers. So the freak out part, you kind of hinted at. He was talking to the doctor as far as telling him what happened the night before, but show us what happened. Show us how he freaked out. Maybe he got super, creepy about his glowing skin and stuff, and ran out the house and bust through a wall or something. Show us that stuff, because that's super interesting, and that'll really connect with your audience and really keep them through the entire episode. And then you showed us a little bit as far as him executing his powers a little bit. I thought that was awesome. I'd like to see more of that stuff. Other than that, director to director, you wrote the script. It sounded like you wrote it to shoot, so it has a lot of like you wrote it. You were kind of directing from the script with a lot of a lot of action in the script, written in the script, and a lot of action for your actors. And my advice to you is to really kind of back off a little bit, because you want your actors to act and really bring the story to life. So don't really tell the actors how to feel. Don't really tell them, that they were hesitant or they're this and that. The characters can be that a little bit. You want to share a little bit of that stuff, but you don't really want to direct the actors through the script, and you also don't want to put too many shots, like the drone shots or the pans and all that stuff, unless you're dead set on shooting it yourself. Because let's say Netflix does pick it up, they may not let you shoot it. They may have a team shoot it, so you don't want to direct it on the page. You just have to kind of. It's really tough as directors, as filmmakers, to kind of take a step back and be objective with the writing. But that's what you got to do, especially if you want someone else to take it and run with it, right? You have to be as objective as possible. And one other thing was the tone of the project. Is this a drama or a comedy?
Would definitely be a drama.
Okay. Had you considered a comedy?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, Not really. I mean, there's probably like comedic elements in it, but making it a comedy, I haven't thought about it. It's an interesting thought. It definitely I could see itself lending that way.
Well, there's no right and wrong answer to that question. It's just a what if question, right? So just explore that, and it probably could be a really fantastic dramedy, because it's already a hilarious premise
Yeah.
in itself. I know it's there's some serious elements to it, but that stuff, the comedy can really bring people in along with the action, and the drama really keeps people there tied to the story. So those are my thoughts, and good luck with it, man. I really like the project.
All right, thanks, Rod. Mary Claire, you're up next.
Hey, actually, Rod hit the nail on the head with what I wanted to ask too, which was, I mean, I kept feeling like it was a very dark comedy because it is kind of an ironic predicament this man has been put into. He's a recovering alcoholic, yet the only thing that makes him stay afloat and also gives him superpowers is the alcohol. So I mean, so that's where my brain immediately was like, oh, this is like a dark comedy. That's kind of how I felt, just because I was trying to think like maybe it would make it a little more accessible as a concept for audiences to accept. If it's a drama, they're like, this guy's fucking up with his recovery. This is really sad and this is really depressing. But with like, I'm not telling you how to do it. I was just saying like where my brain was going with when I was reading it, just from a firsthand experience. Like my brain went to like this other realm where it was like, not realm, but just like thinking like, oh, a scene with him and Ray where he's not having alcohol and maybe he's really feeling weak because he's got this water now and like the color in his veins is fading maybe, or I don't know. I'm just trying to think like, I hate to say commercially, but it's a predicament I've had to put myself in when I'm doing my writing is like, oh, well, like people that don't have my brain, are they going to find that funny? Because some things I find hilarious that are not funny at all. Ask my dad, he'll tell you. But yeah, I mean, that was really the only thing was just like what genres is trying to stay in, like action comedy, action dramedy. Because I mean, I definitely also pictured the fight sequences and like picturing, Pat, if he does play this part, gaining that strength and like using that burliness that he has. And it's really cool. I think it's got some nice legs to it. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And that was really fun to read. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really insightful.
All right, thanks, Mary Claire. We are going to go to Kate Mobley, and then after Kate will be Joy.
Y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Hey, Kate, can you speak up? We can't hear you.
No. All right. So Brandon, I did like it. I really like it. It kind of brought Resident Alien vibes because he's the doctor in that series, which great series if you guys haven't watched it yet. I really liked the fight scene. You wrote that very well. I could definitely visualize that. I read this, it kind of read more like a novel instead of a script to me because of all the descriptions. But it did help me to visualize it as I could see it on a screen. I did have a question. The click, is that like a camera click, or is it a click like something hitting against something else?
Are you referring to the click like
before he falls?
I think it's like the tree branch, like click, click.
Okay.
Yeah, I could have said that more. Yeah.
I was trying to figure, I was like, is that click like a camera? So in my head, I was trying to figure that out.
Yes. Yeah, so like that he's sitting on the branch and it's just like his weight's like overbearing and it's like click, click, and then it falls. Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah.
Okay. And on page 17, when he's talking to the doctor and he starts talking about some sign of extraterrestrial life form. It kind of jumped there for me. My brain didn't process it, I guess, the way it's supposed to. So maybe if I see it on screen, it would be different, but reading it, it didn't flow very well for me. But I was trying to think of a way that it would make sense, that the doctor was asking about it, and possibly with more of the meteor shower, because he was talking about the meteor shower and how it was work for the lumber guys. Maybe have him talk more about how it hit the tree branches and things. And that might make a little bit more sense as to why the lumber people would have more work for them. But I did like the visualization of the glowing veins too, and the seeing it and the pulsing veins glowing. So, and I also, the doctor with his glowing orange eyes. As this is a pilot, I kind of forgot that when I first saw it. I was like, where is that going? And now I remember that it's a pilot. So you're going to probably reveal that later on in other episodes. So good job. I really liked it. It was a good sci-fi script.
Joy, you can go ahead. Thanks, Kate.
Okay, thanks. I agree with a lot of what I heard, so I won't repeat. I think starting with the injury and drawing people in is a great idea. Being in healthcare for decades, the dialogue with the doctor, I think, could be a little bit more clinical. Just, I know he's an alien probably, but still, I think there would be more clinical conversation. Also, you could probably cut out the scene with the pharmaceutical clerk just by having the doctor give samples here. If call me if this, if you need more or if you need a prescription, you could cut out that whole thing, that scene, and just from a HIPAA standpoint, that's easier to produce, because when you use a medical place, because of HIPAA, patients can't be present. I've had to deal with this in both genres of being an actor and a healthcare professional, but that scene could probably just go away with him giving him, here's some samples of this, which would also make sense since he's kind of in on this whole thing. But I love sci-fi. It's my very favorite genre. So I hope that somebody decides to do this, because I see a future of this guy doing all kinds of things in these woods. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Joy. We are going to move on to David. Kathy.
Gosh, there's not much hasn't been covered. I mean, it's not a genre I'd know very well or spend much time with. Just an interesting concept of a former alcoholic superhero fueled by alcohol. But interesting to see where it goes. That's it for me.
Are going to move on to Miss Lynn Stidler. Lynn, are you frozen?
I really enjoyed it. Either read it.
Must be a lag.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get her back.
Yeah. Lynn, you may want to try to hook up to Wi-Fi or leave the meeting and come right back. You're frozen. And while we get that situated, we will go to Mr. Torian Johnson.
Brandon, to start, because we don't have Pat with us yet, do we? Okay, just Brandon. Brandon, yes. First of all, congrats on writing a pilot episode. That's a pretty incredible feat. And really finishing like any work I know is a task as a writer from 3 pages to a million pages. So, you know, salute to seeing an idea all the way through to the end. So I really enjoyed, there are a couple things I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the concept. Like kind of, there's a lot of very interesting things being done with the superhero genre. And I think that it's really nice to explore all the possibilities there, because it's usually it's literally whenever you take somebody and kind of give them a limitless element, what can you get? And I would like to think that the possibilities are endless too. So I think that this is a cool space to explore. Likewise, I really enjoy what I see going on with the character. And I think he's an interesting character as well. I also have some critiques. So the first, and there's some like kind of particular things, and then there's some that's more of like a conceptual approach to some of these critiques. But the first I would say is, you know, kind of a stay in your lane as a writer whenever you're writing, right? First off, you're kind of directing or kind of acting for the actor, those kind of moments. That just shows you're a multifaceted filmmaker who thinks about all of these different things and can put them in one place. So it's not a bad thing. But whenever you're writing a script, you got to think about what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to bring people into a story that is intended to be visual, right? To do that, you don't have to explain certain technicalities of the other disciplines of filmmaking. Saying things like angle on or drone out and stuff like that, let the cinematographer and director figure that out, right? Parentheticals in the dialogue, I don't know, like saying something is being said shamefully or happily or whatever. Let the actor make that decision. As a matter of fact, that may be an in vain effort, because sometimes directors toss out whole bits of dialogue, or they completely change the mood and tone of a scene to better fit the overall story. So that's not the best place to put your energy. You don't have to act for the actor or direct for the director there. Saying stuff like a slight silent beat, that's kind of another attempt from where I see it, another attempt to kind of direct for the director. You don't have to do that. If there's a quiet moment, just say beat. Or if there's a quiet moment, find a way to express that visually. I don't even know if that makes sense, but if there's a moment that's absent or devoid of sound, maybe there's something else that's amplified in sound in the environment that you wouldn't normally hear because of what you're because of the silence that's going on. So like, think of creative ways to visualize those things. Now, this last piece to this part right here, I wrote down, and I encourage you to read other disciplines. Right? It's real easy to read like Screenplay or Save the Cat, Story, all these like famous screenwriting books. But I think I found as a writer, the most helpful stuff that I've come across I found in books for other disciplines. The Not Acting for Actors. As a matter of fact, Sandy Meisner is one of the greatest acting coaches in history. He said in a class of his one time that he completely chops out parentheticals whenever he sees them on a script when he's reading. Like doesn't pay them any mind. As soon as he sees them, he blacks them out, just because the actor is the one who gets to make that decision. Reading other books by these people who are masters in different disciplines kind of gives you a different idea of what you need to provide as a storyteller. So I would highly encourage that. There are a lot of great directing, acting books out there, cinematography books, whatever. There were a couple of moments when I think that some of the action could use a different kind of explanation. Like moments that, like, I think I saw somewhere that somebody put their hand on something in a comforting manner. Again, like thinking about what that would translate over to an actor, like what is in a comforting manner? Like is that like this? Is that like this? It's more, I think it's more useful to an actor if you describe a specific action. Like they hesitated as they approached it, or they gently stroked it or something like that. Like those kind of things are a little bit more deliberate in describing like what you're going for in that moment. I think that the conversation with the doctor had a lot of incredible information that made the story so much more interesting. But I also think that that's a lot of that stuff could have been shown through action. The doctor saying that, he was looking at his samples and they were weird. He discovered all this stuff about the ethanol. That's interesting to hear, but also imagine if that was shown in some kind of scene where the doctor's in a lab looking at something and we're seeing his reaction to those things. And at the same time, we're seeing, Jack develop as a enhanced being that he is. So that's a thought about it. I really agreed with what Ron said. No. I think it was Mary Claire. Mary Claire said something about this kind of coming off as a comedy. And I thought that it did as well. And then somebody even suggested dramedy. I thought that was a great idea too. That's not saying that your concept is laughable. Don't take that like that. It's saying that the way that the beats hit, it lends itself a little bit more to humor. So I also think that it was kind of ironic that there's a former alcoholic. It was a former alcoholic that is getting superpowers from being basically an alcoholic again. Like that's kind of a funny premise. And in the right context, you can add drama to that and make it a very interesting story as it's shaping up to be. Last thing I want to say is the pilot should leave people with a lot of questions. And it seemed like there was a lot of questions being answered in this first episode. Finding out all of these things about his powers and getting like specific answers on how it works and all of that, I think that can work in the first episode, but I wonder if there's a way to make the audience question what made him heal or what makes him get stronger, or what all are his abilities. Maybe his super healing and super strength aren't his only abilities. I wonder if there's a way to provoke those questions, show it visually but subtly, and provoke questions in your viewers. Yeah, I think that's what I have. But again, I think you did a great job. Sorry for being a little long-winded. I'm glad that they let the intern speak.
Our resident admin intern, human being, Torian Johnson. David Merrill.
Hi, folks. Can everybody hear me? Okay. All right. I see. Okay.
Hey, David, it's your turn. David, it's your turn. Can you unmute?
What is this thing on? Can you hear me? Can you? I just got a text from Lynn. She's trying to reconnect, but she's lost the internet in her office. So stay tuned for Lynn. She may be back before we're done. So this is a really interesting and challenging script and story idea, and overall I like it. I thought there was territory that you were going into, like for a minute there. I really thought, okay, well this is maybe he's going into like Deadpool or something like that, which you didn't, and I'm kind of I'm a little glad for that. So I would agree with the earlier speakers that are telling you to tighten up your scenes and tighten up your dialogue. And if something can be expressed in action or in a look or in a gesture without dialogue, you should try and I think that you need to kind of tease that out of your story. I always kind of quote this rule. This is not my rule, but it's kind of a thing that goes into a lot of dramatic storytelling. The whole idea of get in late and then get out early, and and from scene to scene, and even from the screenplay in, it's like you may want to have like a just like a really blunt force trauma baby in the blender moment in the beginning that has the audience, kind of startled but engaged, and it's like, what's happening here? And then you have revelatory scenes, that reveal, what we were in the midst of. Don't be afraid of that. I know it's like jumping in the deep end of the pool with all your clothes on, but sometimes, man, you got to do it. So a couple of films that I would mention, because it reminded me. It's not that I thought your story was exactly like these films. It's not, but Neil Blomkamp, I think that's the name, pronounce that name right. District 9, from back in 2009. It's a really great science fiction film that takes place in South Africa. And then 1984, John Carpenter's Starman with Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen. So these are both, stories about characters that are, the characters are fish out of water. It just so happens that that these that in a case it's like one is an alien in a human body, and another is a human who is becoming an alien and dealing with challenges there. So it deals with material and issues that is close to your story. But your story is a good one, and I feel like it's got you've got good infrastructure, you've got good essentials. I think that that if you work on your structure, and specifically you work on tightening up your scenes and your dialogue, you'll have something really worth shooting, or selling to someone to shoot, or pitching it to someone to shoot. I would pay attention to I'm thinking that Rod and Torian's comments about being cautious about directing from the page, which I'll tell you that that when I've read hundreds of screenplays, probably well over 1,000 screenplays. Everybody does it when they start out. Everybody directs from the page when they start out, because they're not really sure how to communicate. You see something in your mind, you see an actor or character reacting, and you want them to have that reaction, and you want to tell that, but you have to figure out a way to show that. And I feel like it's one of those things where and I know that you start to write it, because I've been challenged with it myself. It's like, but how? And it's really hard sometimes. But you think about your scene and you think about your character enough, it will come to you. You'll have a eureka moment, and you'll say, okay, I know, like you will get a moment where you know how to show that moment of enlightenment, or that moment of terror, or that moment of desperation. They're there, it's there, and it's the story is your story is in you. You just have to tease it out and get it on the page. I'm really caffeinated. I feel like I should let someone else speak. Who's up next? Timberly?
Thank you.
So Doug, did I miss you in the shuffle?
I'm here. And no, I have not gone yet.
Okay. Well, here's your chance to go.
Yeah, woohoo! Save the last for the best for last, right? That's what it is. I find it a very interesting story. I think everybody has already pointed out all the stuff that I would have mentioned. There's some grammatical errors. The doctor scene was a little awkward. But I guess for me, the biggest thing is maybe, it's the concrete in here instead of the brain that everybody else has. But I did not see that alcohol gave him superpowers. It seemed like he already had superpowers, and he just needed the alcohol to heal himself. Now, I mean, healing yourself can be a healing or a superpower, but I didn't see like him getting strength and being able to fly or jump or run fast from alcohol. So when you mentioned it in the description of the story, it immediately made me think of I don't know if y'all have seen it or not, but Jackie Chan's The Drunken Master. that's immediately what I thought, where he was actually a better martial artist when he actually drank alcohol. So I was thinking your character would have to drink alcohol in order to become stronger and faster, do certain things. So maybe that's just me. But I thought it was good. But I mean, everybody else touched on everything that I would have said. I think it's definitely something to go back and revisit and get the dialogue better. And that scene with the doctor, again, everybody's talked about that. But it's very interesting. I would really like to see this produced and made into something. Because for me, I'll be honest, for me, I really want to see the relationship between him and his daughter. It was just a slight nugget, and it was only in the car right at the accident. But I wish there was a better scene between him and his daughter that showed that relationship, because that's what I was really looking for. And it's kind of hard to show, but especially in that little car scene where the accident happens. But I'm big on relationships, so I would really have loved to have seen a little lengthy scene between him and his daughter. But that's it for me. You should check out Drunken Master, though. I think that's an awesome movie to watch to compare to.
All right, thanks, Doug. We are going to go to Arnold.
All right. So everyone's done such an amazing job that an impressive job. I would also say congratulations on the work that you've done. By no standard is it a small accomplishment to write a screenplay, be it a pilot or feature or short or otherwise. I'm not going to go over technical notes. I think a lot of good points were made, and I don't want to bog us down with that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't catch grammatical or spelling mistakes. Everybody that ever proofs my material knows that's one of my huge weaknesses. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I've read either this version or a prior version a very long time ago, and I liked the story immediately. I like the play on his name. You know, Jack, he's a lumberjack, and he also drinks alcohol, which Jack Daniels is like one of the #1 liquors on the market. So I thought that was clever. I like that it's character driven in regards to, you know, we're learning a lot about Jack and watching his development. I like that he's an anti-hero and a lovable loser at the same time. We see that here and there, and especially in the superhero worlds, characters like Wolverine or Deadpool, which, you know, we're in the sci-fi genre. Lovable losers and anti-heroes are very popular, especially with this kind of subject matter, which to me, it was like dark drama with a hint of humor. So when people were making the comment, they felt like this could be a dramedy or, you know, a dark comedy or whatever. I totally agree. And I also think that if there was some humor in there, it may lighten the load of what we're experiencing through Jack's life. You know, like alcoholism. I like dark movies. You know, Fight Club's one of my favorite movies, The Machinist. I love all the 1990s gritty films. So this is right up my alley, but this seems like the time period for gritty, dark, heavy, and I'm not saying that this pilot is, that kind of came and passed in the 90s. That was like, there was a surge of those type of films. And it seems like now that for the most part, films tend to be shows tend to be a lot more lighthearted. So humor may help lighten the load of the dramatic element that this show presents. I do love how alcohol is what destroyed his life, but also is giving him a new life and redeeming him. I love the concept of redemption being tied to what actually destroyed him. So I really love that idea. I am rooting for Jack. I do feel like that he could have a stronger save the cat moment earlier on in the story. And what a save the cat moment is Blake Snyder describes it as a character can be as dark, unappealing, an anti-hero, or unlikable as you want them to be, as long as you have them do something early on that we can all root for and like about that character. So that's called like the save the cat moment. Another thing is like his relationship with his daughter. I think the stronger it is, the more you'll get people behind Jack, no matter how down the rabbit hole or the downward spiral he goes through. Because I foresee dark times ahead. This guy's going to be drinking alcohol, and he's going to be accused of drinking alcohol, and people are going to assume, I'm assuming, of course, people are going to assume that he is not changed or he's digressed in his progression and he's just no better than what he used to be. So definitely need to, you know, give us a stronger foundation to root for him. Dr. Ian, this was pointed out earlier also, and I'm trying not to repeat too much of other people's comments, but it was a big one. There's a lot of exposition there. Dr. Ian is explaining a lot. If he's an alien and he's a bad guy, if he's an antagonist and he's not rooting for Jack, I understand or assume that he's telling Jack these things so Jack can stay alive because there's a purpose for this. But anything that can be shown instead of told is going to be way more entertaining. Visually showing something instead of having a character say it is always going to be way better. Also, I think the Doctor, if he's an alien and if he is a antagonist, a bad guy, I think he would be more deceptive. Or if he's trying to encourage Jack to learn things about his abilities, but not let on that he knows too much, maybe try to orchestrate situations where Jack would learn these things about himself. Oh, there's a movie called Mandy. And as far as I know, Pat pitched this idea and we had talked about it a long time ago before Mandy even came out, before we even knew Mandy existed. But it's a Nicolas Cage movie where Nicolas Cage's character is a lumberjack and he's a former alcoholic. These are two totally different stories. No one's going to say that you ripped them off. But there's a moment in the film where Nicolas Cage has a breakdown and decides, I'm going to drink. I have to drink to get through this. And I think if you watch the film and you see that moment, it'll help you craft a stronger climatic moment at the end of your pilot where he decides to drink. I love what's in the case. I love that this is what you're working towards, or, you know, the reminder of the daughter. And again, I feel like the more connection we see with the daughter, the stronger the drama is. Also, I'm straying here, but he's being told he can't see his daughter. Let's see it. Let's see examples of it. Let's see obstacles forcing him to not be able to be in contact with his daughter. That would be more powerful, in my personal opinion. I think there's a way to tell more with less. I think that you could probably fit in more moments if you trimmed some of your scenes or some of the content that are in the existing scenes. Again, get into the scene as late as possible, get out as early as possible. I think David mentioned that, or Torian. Definitely somebody touched on that. I think his powers are great, but there's this situation in the superhero world where everybody's fast. Everybody's super strong. Everybody can heal pretty fast. Everybody's durable. That's the DC Comics, and I'm a Marvel guy, but that's the DC Comics formula for this is the generic build for our superpowers, and then we're going to add a couple to make that person stand out. And that's one of my biggest complaints about DC Comics is like almost everybody's Superman, and then they have one power that makes them stand out. So I think Jack, with pondering a little bit, you might come up with some interesting powers that would make him really stand out. And I would slowly introduce those throughout the series. Slowly make him figure out what they are. Slowly, because that's part of the journey. The destination is not as important as the journey itself. And I think him accidentally figuring out powers or slowly figuring out powers would be helpful, and how he goes about figuring them out. Maybe he sees a comic book and is like, wow, can I do that? Or a kid, you know, mentions something about superpowers and he tries it, et cetera, and so forth. I'm not trying to put ideas in your head, just examples. Okay, so another thing about great storytelling, and you did some of this, is that you pose a question and then you answer it way later. Like, why did he do this? And then don't answer it for a scene or two. So anytime you see in a scene where you're telling us exposition, you're telling us things, prior to that scene, try to find a way to pose a question to the audience. Make them wonder, why is he doing this? Or why is this happening to him? And then let us find out later. It's more intriguing that way. It also makes the audience feel like they're engaged in figuring out the story or along for the ride as a storyteller. To prepare, you did a good job. I would suggest, because Torian touched on this and it was great advice, I would suggest reading screenplays as another way to improve our abilities as screenwriters. All of us do it all the time. I try to read one a week minimum, and that's not very fast. I would read them once a day if I had the time. So definitely read screenplays. And that's it. I'm sorry it was long-winded and it was a book, but I enjoyed your story. And the more I enjoy a story, the more I have to say. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Thanks, Arnold. So before I give my feedback, Lynn has rejoined us. Lynn, are you ready to share what you think about this screenplay?
Well, yes, what I was saying is that, and I apologize for that, the internet in the office is totally dead, totally. So I'm on my phone. I guess it was the storm, but I would really sit and watch the whole episode if this were on TV, and I really enjoyed it. I did wonder almost the whole time though what had happened to the daughter, and I was getting ready to say that we certainly couldn't make it into a comedy if she had some horrible paralyzing injury, and I think it also might affect the terms of her reunion with her father. If she were horribly paralyzed, maybe the daughter wouldn't even want to see him again. Who knows? But I really thought it was great. I was really impressed, and I've read a lot of scripts once they come to the film commission, and they're funded and they're connected to a certain project. We're allowed to read them, and I thought it was as good as any script I've read.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I look forward to reading it. I'll just have to imagine all of you. Did it, or is it recorded? Thanks. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks so much, Lynn. So, Brandon, there were some things that I saw that I wanted to point out. So one of the things that my professor, well, my advisor at Sundance was telling me to do, and I think it'll be a really helpful tip for you, is to go through your document and search for the word is and search for the word are, A-R-E, in your action portion. So just go through there and try to take out is, take out are, and take out those ing helping verbs. Those are going to elevate your description. I wanted to give you an example of show don't tell, because I know that multiple writers have touched on that. So I had a conversation with Torian last week, and we were talking about show don't tell, and so I'm going to use Torian's name in this example. So Torian loves avocado ice cream, and I could tell you that and it would be okay, but I could tell you Torian just spent 16 hours working at his job, and he came into the house and he opened his freezer and he grabbed his tub of avocado ice cream, opened it, and it was empty. Torian then proceeds to run throughout the house, screaming and cursing at everyone about his avocado ice cream. I just showed you that he loves avocado ice cream. Now, Torian, the person, will never actually try avocado ice cream, but that's an example of show don't tell. When you talk about the flashbacks, don't put those in the action, actually put that in the slug. You want to manage confusion on the page. And so that's something that I would just consider. If you are thinking about this being a drama, most dramas standard are 60 pages, because you want to think about a minute a page. Some come in 50, 55, just considering commercial breaks and things like that. But if it's a drama, you want to try to go for the hour-long format, which could be a 5-act, it could be a teaser and a 5-act and a tag, just how you all, choose to break it down. But I would definitely look at lengthening your script and taking out the camera directions. You want to leave those things for the director. I think this is a really great story. Um, it could go either way, comedy or a drama. There were compelling things. I think that if you start with the car accident as your teaser, then you can move into your inciting incident in Act One, and everything will be solid. Um, I would suggest, like I saw, she is getting angry. Instead of saying that, just write the line the way an actor would have no choice. But when we see him calm her down, we can kind of tell that she's getting angry. So we want to just build up to that point of actually having to show that anger. Um, and then I would just suggest cleaning up your slugs, and people need ages. And since this is going to be a TV show, I was thinking it was going to be a movie at first. Um, since it's going to be a TV show, I would add in like a description of who the person is as a person. Something that we didn't know by filming it, but something that brings the reader more into who the character is. On 29 and 30, at the bottom of 29 and the beginning of 30, your waitress enters twice. Just thought you might want to catch that. And I love how you had the doctor acknowledge that normally he wouldn't be giving this type of advice. One thing that I've learned is if there's something that could be viewed out of the realm of possibility or probability, when you mention it and when the character actually brings it up and answers that question, then we can say our brains can go, okay, and kind of move forward with it. So I think you did a great job with that. I love that I love that he's a recovering alcoholic who now not only strongly wants alcohol, he needs it to survive. I think that the irony of that is amazing. So great job tonight. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Appreciate everybody's feedback.
I'm sorry. I had one more question. And this isn't a question for you to answer. This is just a question for you to ask yourself. You want to ask yourself if this is going to be a serial or if it's going to be a procedural. And so that also is going to determine how you write your pilot and how you expand it. So that was just something.
And take that on authority from a Sundance writer, y'all. A Sundance writer who's written quite a bit for her first series, TV series. So on good authority.
Brandon, you're muted.
I was just saying yes. Thank you for all of that for sure. I mean, there's a lot of key things that were very helpful. Really, because like in the past, like and like how my process has been with we've made 5 short films, and like you get in the habit of like like kind of like what you were saying of okay, I know like I'm writing this and I'm going to shoot it. You kind of do it that way. So in the past, like that's just kind of usually, and like I wrote the original template of this like 2 years ago. So yeah, when we were going through it, I was kind of cringing at some of my things. What I probably will do after this is just completely rewrite it, just because I've just like gotten better so much as a screenwriter anyway. But yeah, just like, but that was even good for me. Like when I write something, and even if I know I'm going to direct it, at least in my first couple of drafts, not putting those those like angle-ons, like the directions in there as much. That's a big thing. The genre was a big thing. yeah, show don't tell, so just a bunch of cool stuff. I really appreciate everybody for reading it and telling me all that awesome feedback. It's really cool. But it sounded like everybody really enjoyed it, and that's I got to give it up to Pat for that. He really kind of came up with a pretty cool premise. So I'm just here, trying to make his vision come to fruition. So I'm glad I can do it for him.
Hey, Brandon, just real quick, just want to tell you, good job again, and take everyone's feedback, and you pick and choose what you use, man. Some of it, you can take it and add to the pot. Others you kind of dust it off and put it in a drawer. But everything is all you're the writer here, so you take it what you need for the story and apply it as you can. And congratulations again, man. Just rest and in the fact that you wrote something, and it's not your first time writing, but you wrote something pretty cool. So
yeah,
good job.
Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely a lot to build off of for sure. So
yeah, definitely what Rod said. And Brandon, I just want to encourage you, like, don't cringe at everything and don't be mad at yourself. Try to look at the spirit of the note, kind of like what Rod was saying. Look at the spirit of the note. And what I would suggest to you is you have gotten a lot of feedback. Take a couple of days just to rest and not even look at it, and just breathe and process everything, because this is a big experience. It can be a big experience. So just process everything. And like Rod said, rest in the fact of knowing that you wrote something. And when you're ready to get back to it, then tackle it from a new perspective. I believe you can do it. You've done some sound story work here. And so I think, with the right place beats and everything, is really gonna be great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it'll be great. I appreciate the feedback again. This was a great experience for sure. Thank you, Arnold and David, Merrill, all of you guys' feedback, and I appreciate the film recommendations. The only one out of that list I've seen is District 9, so I got the other ones written down with Mandy and Starman and Drunken Master. So those are cool.
Well, where Torian was talking about, and I think it was Don, about him having superpowers and not drinking yet and stuff, you can go into like the character of the guy from Californication, where he's never a teetotaler. He's been drinking the whole time. He's going to AA meetings, and he's just that guy. So he has the superpowers because he's still drinking the whole time.
Interesting.
And luckily with the superhero genre, especially because of Marvel, like, it really lends itself to comedy. So like I don't know if you are anxious about like writing comedy or anything like that, but I think the material will present itself pretty naturally to you if you think about heading in that direction, even if a little bit.
That was interesting because when y'all were talking about that, I was kind of like picturing some unique situations, like after he's kind of faced it, like, you could be, I just thought of some, like, I mean, I definitely got that one up here for sure. Those are really cool. Didn't really think about it like that, but after, hearing you guys' opinions and then thinking about it for myself, obviously, I was like, wow, that's not a bad idea.
The only other thing I was talking about is like you're talking about you didn't want to shoot it, you want to sell it, go to Netflix or something. But when Pat's not here, but I know Pat, and you're talking about he wanted to listen to Jack, so I'm guessing Pat wants to play Jack.
Yeah, he does.
Which means you're going to have to shoot the pilot with Pat as Jack to give him a chance to play Jack. Otherwise, if Netflix takes it over, they're going to want some name. It's like Kevin Smith when he did Mallrats. He had enough clout to bring his friends in. Otherwise, that would have never happened. If he didn't have the clout he had from the last movie he made, those guys wouldn't have been in Mallrats.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So you're going to have to shoot if Pat wants to play this role, you got to shoot a pilot with Pat in it so that people can see Pat in the role. That's another thing I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for March's edition of Write Club's Table Read with our guest authors, screenwriters, Brandon Russell and Pat Prentiss, for their reading of Jack, a working draft of their pilot, their drama pilot. So we thank you so much for joining us. Please stay tuned and follow us on all of our social media platforms, Write Club 901 at all of them. So check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. My name is Kimberly Moore. We thank you again. This has been another Write Club Table Read. Thanks so much. Good night.